Hello, everyone. I'm glad you could join us again on this beautiful Sunday. We have 2 songs again, as well as a message. We have 1 new song later. We'll get to that in a little bit. But let's go ahead and begin. You make the darkness run and hide. You bring the broken back to life. Only you can, only you can. You set me free from every chain. You fill my heart with songs of praise. Only you can, only you can. Jesus, you're the only reason that I'm even breathing. I am wide awake. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My feet dance to your rhythm, to your rhythm. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. You left the glory of your throne to bring this runaway back home. Only you can, only you can. You give me love, you give me life, you keep me dancing through the night. Only you can, only you can. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My feet dance to your rhythm, to your rhythm. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. Jesus, you're the only reason that I'm even breathing. I am wide awake. You move me, your freedom is consuming. I feel it rushing through me. I'll never be the same. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My feet dance to your rhythm, to your rhythm. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. So the next song we're going to do is Highlands. We've been wanting to do this for you guys for a while, and we were going to do it before all of this started happening. It has a lot of lyrics in it, and pay attention to it because they're some of the most powerful lyrics that I've ever heard. I hope you like the song, so let's go ahead and sing it. Oh, how high would I climb mountains if the mountains were where you hide? Oh, how far I'd scale the valleys if you grace the other side. Oh, how long have I chased rivers from lowly seas to where they rise, against the rush of grace descending from the source of its supply. 'Cause in the highlands and the heartache, you're neither more or less inclined. I would search and stop at nothing. You're just not that hard to find. Ooh, oh, I will praise you on the mountains. I will praise you in the mountains in my way. You're the summit where my feet are. I will praise you in the valleys all the same. No less God within the shadows. no less faithful when the night leads me astray. You're the heaven where my heart is. In the Highlands and the heartache all the same. Oh, 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 how far beneath your glory does your kindness extend the path, from where your feet rest on the sunrise to where you sweep the sinner's path. And oh, how fast would you come running if just to shadow me through the night, trace my steps through all my failure and walk me out the other side. For who could dare ascend that mountain, that valleyed hill called Calvary, but for the one I call Good Shepherd, who like a lamb was slain for me. Whoa, I will praise you on the mountains, I will praise you in the mountains in my way. You're the summit where my feet are. I will praise you in the valleys all the same. No less God within the shadows, less faithful when the night leads me astray. You're the heaven where my heart is. In the Highlands and the heartache all the same. Oh, oh, whatever I walk through, wherever I am, your name can move mountains wherever I stand. And if ever I walk through the valley of death, I'll sing through the shadows my song of ascent. Whatever I walk through, wherever I am, your name can move mountains wherever I stand. And if ever I walk through the valley of death, I'll sing through the shadows my song of ascent, my song of ascent. Oh, 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 from the gravest of all valleys come the pastures we call grace, a mighty river flowing upward from a deep but empty grave. Whoa, I will praise you on the mountain, I will praise you in the mountains in my way. You're the summit where my feet are. I will praise you in the valleys all the same. No less God within the shadows, no less faithful when the night leads me astray. You're the heaven where my heart is. In the Highlands and the heartache all the same. Oh, oh, oh.
Hi guys, welcome back to another week of 4FIVE6 at home online. I'm still not back at the church. As we wrap up the book of Luke, I just kind of wanted to stay here in this space because conversation is good. And with all the uncertainties of COVID and everything, I feel better here at home. So that's why we're here again. But hopefully this is the last one, and then we can be back at church and do fun things there. So, like I said, we're going to jump right back into the book of Luke where we left off. Last week, we stopped with the death of Jesus. Super sad, but luckily that's not where the story ends, right? You see, a couple days later, So you have like the death of Jesus in Luke 23, and then the burial of Jesus. And then the really, really cool thing is a couple of days later, these women are going to the tomb, right? They're going to where Jesus is buried, and they want to like pay their respects. They have some spices and things, Jewish customs we're not going to get wrapped up in. But they get there, and Jesus is gone. His body is nowhere to be found. That's mind-blowing. There's this angel there, and he tells them that Jesus is no longer dead, but that he is actually alive. So the women rush back to the apostles, the 12 disciples that have been with Jesus all throughout his life, ministry here on earth, and they tell them everything that they've witnessed, that there is no longer a body in the tomb, and that Jesus is alive and well. So that is where our story picks up today. So we are in Luke chapter 24, and we're going to start in verse 13. I just recapped 1 to 12, so we're going to start in verse 13. Now, I have my Bible, so I'm going to read for us, and then we'll talk. Here we go. That same day, so the same day that the women went and saw that there was no body in the tomb, that same day, 2 of Jesus' followers were walking to the village of Emmaus, 7 miles from Jerusalem. As they walked along, they were talking about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things, Jesus himself suddenly came and began walking with them. But God kept them from recognizing him. Jesus asked them, "What are you discussing so intently as you walk along?" They stopped short, sadness written across their faces. Then one of them, Cleopas, replied, "You must be the only person in Jerusalem who hasn't heard about all the things that have happened there the last few days." "What things?" Jesus asked. "The things that happened to Jesus, the man from Nazareth," they said. "He was a prophet who did powerful miracles. He was a mighty teacher in the eyes of God and all the people. But our leading priests and other religious leaders, they handed him over to be condemned to death, and they crucified him. We had hoped he was the Messiah who had come to rescue Israel. This all happened 3 days ago." Then, the other one jumped in, "Some women from our group of his followers were at his tomb early this morning, and they came back with an amazing report. They said that his body was missing, that he had seen angels who told them that Jesus was indeed alive. Some of our men ran out to see, and sure enough, his body was gone, just as the women had said." Then Jesus said to them, "You foolish people, you find it so hard to believe all that the prophets wrote in scriptures. Wasn't it clearly predicted that the Messiah would have to suffer all these things before entering his glory?" Then Jesus took them through the writings of Moses and all the prophets, explaining all the scriptures, the things concerning him. By this time they were nearing Emmaus and the end of their journey. Jesus acted as if he were going on, but they begged him, "Stay the night with us, since it's getting late." So he went home with them, and as they sat down to eat, he took the bread and blessed it. Then he broke it and gave it to them. Suddenly their eyes were open, and they recognized him, and at that moment he disappeared. They said to each other, "Didn't our hearts burn within us as he talked with us on the road and explained the scriptures to us?" Within the hour, they were on their way back to Jerusalem. There they found the 11 disciples and the others who had gathered with them, who said, "The Lord has really risen." He appeared to Peter. So, I love this story. I know I say that all the time, but like this time it's actually really true. I spent a lot of time studying this passage in college, and it's one of my favorites in the book of Luke. But so we have these 2 guys, right? And they are disciples of Jesus. So it's important for us to remember that there are 2 distinctions. We have disciples and we have apostles. So disciples are anyone who follows Jesus. So like you are a disciple of Jesus. I'm a disciple of Jesus. But then we have this group of people called the apostles. And those are those 12 men who were with Jesus all throughout his time of ministry here on earth. So they were the 12 that, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, those are 4 of those people that were considered the 12, and they're apostles. But a lot of the times we'll just refer to them as disciples. So these 2 people are disciples. They're just, as far as we know, regular people who followed Jesus. And they're walking back to Emmaus because that's where they live, and they're leaving Jerusalem. So it's about 7-ish miles from Jerusalem to Emmaus. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever walked or run 7 miles. It's kind of long, actually. So just last week, I up and ran a half marathon one day for kicks and giggles, just because I wanted to see if I could do it. And that's 13 miles. So 7 was just over halfway. And I was dying at 7. So these guys are walking the 7 miles from Jerusalem to Emmaus, where they live. So it's going to take them a while to get there. Running 7 miles took me over an hour. So I can't imagine what walking 7 miles is like. And so it's post-crucifixion. They're walking 7 miles from Jerusalem, where the crucifixion happened, to Emmaus, where they live. And they're talking and discussing, everything that's happened, the fact that Jesus died, that he was crucified, and all of these things. And then this man, we know as readers that it's Jesus, but the text says in verse 16 that God kept the 2 disciples from recognizing Jesus as Jesus. They just thought he was another man. So Jesus, random stranger, comes up and is walking with them. Not super weird in this time, but walks up and is with them and asks what they're talking about. Now, we see that they're super sad, right? I mean, like I've said, what has happened is sad. And so he asks, well, what's so upsetting? And everyone thought, because Jesus' death is a really big deal, right? So everyone thought that Jesus was going to save the people, that he was going to redeem them from the Romans and this painful life, and he was going to set them free from this captivity. That's what they thought they had been promised, was this amazing redemption and restoration from the evils of the Roman Empire. To everyone who had hope in Jesus and what he could do and what he was supposed to do, that hope was lost when he died. And these disciples feel the same way. They're in that same boat of, well, we thought Jesus was going to do all of these things, but he's died. So, he can't. So, we have these 2 disciples who are sad. Jesus, incognito, walks up behind them and asks them why they're so sad. Now, they're a little confused because surely everyone in Jerusalem, they're walking away from Jerusalem. Surely everybody there knows what the heck's been going on. Kind of a big deal when this person who's been the it guy for 3 years, that he's died, and that the Jewish leaders are the ones that killed him. So these 2 disciples are kind of confused at Jesus' question, but they answer nonetheless, and they tell him who Jesus was, that he was this man from Nazareth, and that he, did amazing things. He was mighty in word and deed. So he said really cool things that stuck with you, but he did really cool things too. And they describe him as this this prophet and teacher, and they think he's really cool, right? Well then, apparently that wasn't enough for Jesus as a description to who he was. So he goes off, and he calls them foolish and slow of heart, that, he's calling them out on letting the circumstance in their life, the fact that Jesus died, get in the way of seeing what God's doing all around them. See, the disciples had become so pinpoint focused on the death of Jesus that they had forgotten the entire history of the Jewish people up to that point. So Jesus, because it's a 7-mile walk, you got the time, goes through their entire history as a people. All the way back to Abraham and Moses and Joseph and the prophets. And he outlines the entire Old Testament and points these 2 disciples to countless times throughout their history when God showed up. Times when prophets warned them about what was going to happen when their Redeemer came. And he shows them all of these ways that God has made promises and the ways that Jesus fulfilled those promises in life and in death. Now, they've been walking for 7 miles, right? We've made that pretty clear. And it's getting late. And so they get back to Emmaus, and the disciples urge Jesus, this stranger that's with them. They say, hey, well, instead of wherever it is you're going, it's getting late, probably not the safest to be out by yourself. Why don't you just stay the night with us and you can keep going in the morning? So Jesus is like, okay. So they go to one of their houses, I assume, and they sit down at the table, right? I'm at my dining room table. They sit down and they decide to have a meal together. Been walking for 7 miles. You expel a lot of energy. And they sit down, and Jesus breaks bread to eat. And in that instance, the 2 disciples are allowed to know who he is. God opens their eyes and they recognize who it is that they've been talking with. And then Jesus is gone. Sit down, break bread. Oh my gosh, it's Jesus. Gone. And the disciples just sit there for who knows how long. And they are in complete awe of everything that's happened. And Luke, he tells us that within an hour, they are up and running back to Jerusalem to tell the apostles what happened, what they witnessed, what they've experienced. Within an hour, after walking 7 miles, not finishing their meal, I assume, they get up and dead sprint back to Jerusalem. Now, here is what is really, really cool about this story. The disciples on the road, they got to hear story after story after story of how God keeps his promises. And I'm going to let you in on a secret. God still keeps his promises today. The Bible is full of times when God said something and it happened. Here's the caveat, though. The piece that we often don't want to think about, but we need to. God kept his promise to send a Redeemer to the people, right? Jesus came and he saved the people. But it didn't happen like everyone expected it to happen. The disciples and the Jewish leaders, They kept thinking that some white knight on a horse was going to come in and save the people and kill the Romans and break them from physical slavery and bondage and chains, and that he was literally going to set the people free. But that isn't what happened. It didn't happen in the way that the disciples thought. Clearly, 2 of them were confused. It didn't happen in the way the religious leaders of the day thought, clearly because they killed the man. All throughout our study of the book of Luke, we've talked about how Jesus didn't meet the people's expectations, how he did things differently than what people thought he would, and he lived life in such a way that it challenged people's thoughts on who God is. Jesus, caused people to think about who God is, what he does, and how he acts. And God still does this today. If you pull nothing else away from our study of the book of Luke, congrats, guys, you've basically read through all of it. I want you to know this one thing. God works everything out for his good. Now, it might not be in the timing you want or in the way you think it should be, but God is always going to work to bring people back to him. So as you live your life, know that God hasn't stopped working. He didn't quit doing things just because the Bible, the physical Bible itself, is completed. God didn't stop working because COVID happened, or because of racial tensions or other injustices in the world. God's still here. And the things that are happening, they're all going to be worked out. And they're all going to be worked out for his good in his time to bring people back to him. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for another day that we get to live with you and your promises. And I pray that we hold steadfast to the things that you have promised in a time when the circumstances of our lives don't make sense, when things are out of whack, and we don't have a norm anymore. And I pray that we will see through it that you are still good and that your promises are still true. Thank you so much for giving us this amazing book of Luke, that we are able to walk through it together and do life together with it. I pray that you will be able to bring us all back, hopefully to the church next week, so that we can continue to learn and grow with you. I pray all of these things and so much more in your holy and awesome and wondrous name. Amen. All right. Well, this is it, guys. The book of Luke is over. You're probably wondering what the heck we're going to do next week. It's going to be in the Old Testament. I'll tell you that right now. But you will have to stay tuned because I will release that information on Facebook this coming week at some point. So, as I do every week, may the Lord bless you, keep you, cause his face to shine upon you, and give you guys peace. We'll see you next week.